Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review is brought to you in part by Rogers Hobby Center in Saginaw, Michigan, where the fun begins. This review covers the Ferrari F189 early version Formula One race car. It's kit number 20023, and it's a 1/20th scale kit from Tamiya. To comply with drastic regulation changes that took effect starting the 1989 F1 season, the Ferrari team brought out their revolutionary F189 Type 640. Now the aesthetic body styling resembles a vase when viewed from above, and one of the more controversial features of this racer was the semi-automatic electronically controlled transmission. Now this kit has 86 parts molded in red, white, and black plastic with black vinyl tires and smoked clear parts. It's for an intermediate to advanced skill level builder due to some of the fragile parts involved. And it was released in 1990 and retooled in 1991 as the late version. Now when complete, the model measures about 8.5 inches long, 4¼ inches wide, and 2 inches high. Oh, just a minute. Hold on, folks. That's my new program director, Newt. Well, hello there, Newt. What's up?
Why can I see through the right side of the body on the box art? Is half of the body clear?
Oh, you noticed that, huh? No, that's called a cutaway illustration, and it's used to give the viewer an idea of the detail that's inside.
That's cool. And why would they make both an early and a late version of the same race car?
Formula One racing is an immensely popular sport, and its fans take note of every facet of the cars and the drivers. So Tamiya made kits of both versions of that car, plus the updated version wouldn't have required all new tooling, so it was less expensive to make another one. Here are the contents of the kit, and as you can see, the colors actually kind of divide the chassis and suspension parts from the body parts. It also comes with a driver figure, which I found difficult to paint and decal, but I'm not too used to making figures. Nonetheless, it's there and available for the avid builder. Now remember, we'll be using liquid cement, sometimes super glue, and even some white glue for the clear parts. But you need to heed the manufacturer's safety and use instructions for any of the products or things that you see used in the review. Here are the decals for the kit. Now mine were showing their age and they were yellowing, so I put them in a Ziploc bag and hung them in the window for a week with some strong sunshine to take some of the yellowing out. The tire decals are of the reverse type, but mine were pretty badly aged, so I ended up using some regular water slide decals for those tires. Construction starts with the engine, so grab these parts, major components, and we'll use those to begin. Glue the engine halves together and paint the engine block and the lower intake a 50-50 mix of flat brown and gunmetal. Now paint the transmission a 3-to-1 mix with some semi-gloss black and some gunmetal and some gold leaf. Paint the wing area black and glue the half shafts to each side of the transmission and paint those a metallic gray. Now add the lower intake. Next, the rear stop light is painted with a 3-to-1 mix of the light area red and glue it to the rear of the transmission. Now lastly, add the body side panels that are painted aluminum on the engine side and red on the outside. Locate these pieces for the rear end parts, and then we're going to paint the lower A-arm that same 3-part color with which is 3-to-1 mix of semi-gloss black, gunmetal, and gold leaf. And we're going to paint the buckles or fittings there gold and attach it to the underside of the transmission. Now clip the open ends of the A-arms to the studs on the side of the motor. and paint the engine front cover the same three-part color and then glue it to the engine block. Now we're going to flip it over and over the engine and then add the upper A-arm piece, which is painted semi-gloss black with the gold ends on it. Finally, add the transmission top, which is also the three-color part mix. So grab these control arms and the shocks and pieces here, and you're going to paint the shocks semi-gloss black and glue them into place. Now, just as a reminder, always scrape off any paint or plating before you glue parts together or they won't stick. Now paint the oil cooler black and glue it into place near the rear wing uprights. Next, paint the oil canister black and glue it into place. And then the valve covers get painted with the brown and gunmetal mix, and they are detailed with some silver and gold fittings. Now attach those as well. So get these last engine parts and the brake rotors here, and we'll be using those next. Now paint the fuel rail aluminum and the upper intake flat earth. Now glue those together and add this assembly to the lower intake. Now paint the brake hubs semi-gloss black and attach that to the A-arms. Next we'll work with the exhaust. There'll be some light parting lines here you'll need to clean up. So get those out, and then we're going to paint them flat white and glue the headers into place on the motor. In this next step we'll be working on some body panels, the cockpit, and a few suspension pieces. So get these out and stage them after you clean those up and get them ready to assemble. Paint the main cockpit semi-gloss black with the rear firewall being aluminum. Now paint the canister aluminum and glue it to the firewall. Paint the body panels black on the inside and red on the outside and glue them in place now. Paint the radiators aluminum and install those. Now paint the A-arms semi-gloss black and slide the tie rod piece between the tabs on the A-arms and glue them to the nose of the figure now. Find the A-arms and its panels in the kit, and then we're going to paint the A-arms black and the body panels black on the inside and red on the outside. Now take the body panels and angle them in between the A-arm and slip them into place and glue this assembly to the nose. Gather up the rest of the front suspension pieces and paint the torsion bars semi-gloss black and glue those into place. Now paint the shocks black with some silver and gold accents and put those install those at this time. Next, paint the radio black and add decal number 24 to that. Then glue it into the cockpit. The brake lever is black and it glues onto the right side of the cockpit. Add decal number 28 opposite this part. In this step you'll need these pieces for the driver figure, the seat, and some of the cockpit area parts, and so the dashboard gets painted black and it's got red, green, blue, and white button details. So glue that in after it's dry, and the brake hubs are semi-gloss black. Attach those to the A-arms, and now you have the option of having a driver or an empty seat. Well, I went with a driver option, so I painted him red with some black wash and some black detailing with some decals added. I'm not a real figure guy, but I did the best I could. I'm sure you guys can do better. Now gather up these pieces of the roll cage, steering wheel, and these arms. Now talk about detail. You have to decide whether you're on the straightaway or in a turn and choose which set of arms you're going to use. So paint the steering wheel flat black and add decal 26 to the center. Now paint the paddle shifter aluminum and glue it to the wheel. Now if you decide you want to finish him off here, it's time to go ahead and paint those corresponding arms and then the roll bar and glue them into position, and then the roll bar is black and it attaches to the top of the cockpit. Now we'll be working with the undercarriage and the side panels, so go ahead and locate these pieces. And the undercarriage is flat black with the engine bay area aluminum color. Now the body panels are red on the outside and black with aluminum on the inside. And glue those to the undercarriage and then add the completed cockpit to that. Now we're going to glue the entire engine assembly and get that ready. Prep it to make sure that all the glue points are nice and clean. Use some strong glue for that area and add the engine assembly to the undercarriage now. And now get out the wheels and tires and go ahead and clean those up and get them ready for assembly. Find these pieces and paint the brake rotor steel and the calipers gold. Put them in place, noting the front and rears are keyed differently. Now take the tire tool and screw each wheel assembly to the car. So paint the wheels semi-gloss black, and once that's dry, I added the speedline decals, the red ones there, and then go ahead and slip the tires onto the wheels. Now I scuffed up the tread area or the contact area there with a little light sandpaper to give it a worn look. And so here we're working with a rolling chassis now, and as you can see, I also started those decals, but they turned out to be so bad that I had to remove them and replace them with some aftermarket water slide decals. Locate the pieces for the rear wing and paint all these parts a semi-gloss black. And this is a kind of a tricky part of the build. They're so fragile and the contact points are small. So keep these parts as square as you can, gluing them together. I used some slow setting glue and more or less held them into position until they were the right shape. Now once your wing is complete, add it to the uprights behind the transmission. Now we're going to add the downforce front wing and the top cowl there and some parts as you see, and we're going to paint the top cowl that same red, and we're going to add the headrest, and you're going to paint that red to match the body, and the Ferrari logo is a leather color with decal number 21 on it, and then add that to the headrest. So glue the headrest to the cowl cover, which is painted red on the outside and black on the inside, by the way. So also paint the front wing parts semi-gloss black and glue them together. Now once that has set, add it to the front of the cowl, and then finally add the rear view mirrors and the windscreen and place the cowl assembly over the chassis. Also keep in mind that there are two drivers that drove these vehicles, so make sure that you choose the one that matches the one that you are going to match to the decals on the car. Glue the head halves together and clean up the seam. Now paint that white and detail the face in whatever manner you want to, and then the drivers are individual. So this has got some pretty difficult to apply decals. As you can see, I did my best, but they're kind of hard to put into place. So be careful. Use some caution when you're putting those into position, and use some setting solution to try and get those to settle on that round, curvy helmet. Now go ahead and add your decals to the body. They all go on pretty easily, but there may be some panel lines you'll want to use some setting solution on. But once again, match the number and sponsors and the logos and things to the driver specific decals, and go ahead and put those into place now. There won't be many pieces left over, as you can see here, and of course some extra decals for other versions, but this build had almost zero issues, and the decals are wonderful. They go on very nicely, and they lightened up pretty good in the window, as I mentioned, except for the helmet. That is just a difficult thing to do, and they're very small in the first place. So a lot of caution and patience will be needed for that. But otherwise, all the parts fit together just perfectly, and there were no real issues. Now you may get into some fit problems with the cover, but that's usually because of paint or a slightly different elevation on some of the inside parts that have an effect there. So pay very close attention to that. I strongly recommend a liquid glue so that you don't add any additional thickness with the adhesive. So, there it is. If I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this step-by-step premium model scale kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right hand of any of the reviews. Now, you could also find us on Facebook or at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.